And a very and a warm welcome to our annual members meeting in Elizabeth Hospital 2025. We're going to run through to about 4:30, 5 o'clock, depending on how many questions we have. This is a really important meeting for us during the year. It's both formal in that we publish the accounts and we are held to account by all of you in this room and by others. It's also informal. It's a chance, hopefully some of you have had a chance to visit some of our services. It's a chance also for us to share and showcase our passion for doing what we can for patients and a lot of our services. My name is Mark Friend. I became a non-executive in the health sector about 10 years ago, alongside doing other roles as an executive. And I became chair at the James Paget Hospital in 2023. And I became chair here at Queen Elizabeth and at Norfolk and Norwich, and for the group as an interim chair in April this year. It's a job that I love, and I've come to really love the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. I'll just say what shines through for me is a real focus on the patient and a real concern both about patient experience and the outcomes that we deliver. And that you can see in some of what we're going to showcase today. I think that that natural focus on our patients, I think, really shines through. I'll talk a little bit more about the group. There's some really exciting opportunities. It's a journey we're just starting in this in a minute. There are sets of the accounts on the table outside, and there's also QR codes for an easy read or to get the whole copy, all available on the website. This is a hybrid event, so we have more of our many members watching online. And there'll be a chance for questions. So we look forward to your questions towards the end of this session, after we've heard from many others here. So there've been tours to the Community Diagnostic Centre, the Stroke Rehabilitation Garden, and in our colleagues next door, Freedom Speak Up, the charity, and many others. I hope you've had a chance to visit and have interesting conversations. I want to pay tribute to the teams that you can see here in this room. What you have here, we've got the executives who sit on the board of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. You've got the non-executives who sit on the board, and you've got many of our governors who give their time for free, put a lot of time in to making sure that we're giving our very best. So I want to pay a thank you to them for the focus that they've shown through a period of real transition. You'll have read about that. You'll have seen about the changes at NHSC, about the Norfolk and Suffolk integrated care boards coming together. And amidst all of that, there's been a tremendous focus on delivering as best we can to our patients through this period. We are entering into a period where we are coming together across the three hospitals, and we have a number of aims with that. The first of those is a sharper focus around patient outcomes, making sure that we are delivering the best service we can across the whole of Norfolk and Norwich. We have some long-standing issues around, for example, recruitment, which we can tackle together, we think. It's all about where are we making what kinds of decisions. We will join up the planning decisions we make at a real local level, and you may have read, if you've read the NHS 10-year plan, a real focus around neighbourhoods. So it's about linking together what we're doing at the neighbourhood level with a community level through to across the whole county. We've got an ambition to do things really well, and I think we'll hear a bit more about our move towards becoming a teaching hospital. It's an example of how we want to do the very best we can. A real focus around supporting our workforce, for example. What can we do for training and career development across all of Norfolk and Waveney? So we have real ambition to do the very best we can, both at a neighbourhood level through to across the whole county, and making sure we're doing as well as we can. So that's all I'm going to say at this stage. Very happy to answer questions when we get to the end. So I'm going to move on to the formal part, which is we have a great agenda, which I hope you will enjoy. First thing I'm going to ask is whether anybody has any comments on the minutes from last year's annual general meeting.
Yes, very quick point, Mark. I'm Alexandra Kemp, the Borough Council appointed governor, and the minutes for this last year said that the hospital would be rebuilt by 2030, but now we're being told it might not be till 2032, when we know even with the 6,500 props that the roof will start to cave in. So I think it's a very important point for us to be taking up with the government right now.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can come back to that, Alexandra, as questions at the end. I think might be a good idea, but I think in terms of the minutes, it probably doesn't change the ambition as was stated last year. Any other points on that? If so, can we take those as a true record? You nod in approval. Thank you very much. Leslie, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I've got to move that down quite a bit. It's already a shock to me to realise how short I am. My name's Leslie Dwyer. I'm the Group Chief Executive of the Norfolk and Waveney University Hospitals Group. Such a mouthful, but it is actually about the three acute trusts, as Mark said, coming together under the group model. Prior to that, I was the Chief Executive at the Norfolk and Norwich. But I haven't been there that long. I have actually been back in the UK about 18 months. And I think you're getting a little bit of a hint around where I am originally from, which is Australia, not New Zealand, but I would never be offended to be called a New Zealander, unlike New Zealand, call them Australian. It's a fabulous role, it really is. And like Mark, it's given me the ability to actually have some insight into the work that happens across our system and to get to know people who I've known across a meeting table as we've worked on certain things, but to now actually join me and our meds in saying, what does our future look like? Where's the opportunity? How do we grasp that? How do we move more quickly than what we have? But I think you've had a sense, and I hope many of you did take the opportunity to not only go into the room next door and have a look at the great work happening, but to go on some of the tours. I have to say, Queen Elizabeth's been a real surprise to me. Because people talk about, I've had a question about the props and the different things that happen, but I hope you'll get to hear and get a real sense that despite that, there is fabulous care, fabulous innovation happening, and it is such a wonderful place. I'm worried that if I ever stop long enough in a corridor, someone is going to come up and grab me and say, no, I'll take you somewhere. And I actually saw that in action the other night as Chris and I were walking out. And one of your porters saw somebody who needed some assistance and didn't just show them where to go, he took them. And I thought that that is a real indication of the culture that we have here. So I do have the pleasure of showing you the year in review. And as Mark said, I've only been in this role since May. This is not about anything that I have driven, that I've been part of, other than being a good colleague from a distance. And I do want to take the opportunity to acknowledge Alice Webster. Alice really was the driver of many of the things that you see. And more recently, I was speaking with Alice and I said to her, her footprints are everywhere. And I can see those and feel those as well. And that's a great legacy for her. So you can see up there, we have the year in review and these amazing achievements for patients and staff. We've actually seen a huge increase in the number of people that actually come to our emergency department. We've also had to increase, obviously, the staff that go along with that as well, not just in the ED, but across the board. But this is a very, very busy trust. It has a unique population, one that is bound by the coast, and so this is a coastal and rural population. It also spans 3 counties. I'd say that it has a foot in many in South Lincolnshire, but also Cambridgeshire as well. And that means that at the core of what they do is partnerships. And I see that in the work that's done. We're going to now show you a slideshow of the year in review. And you're wondering, we say that we're 24/7, and I think you'll wonder whether anybody ever sleeps here. So over to the slideshow. absolutely amazing, wasn't it? I've had the privilege to watch that a couple of times, and but we're not quite done yet. Because in actual fact, we have got just 2 more slides. I'm not going to talk your way through them, some of which you have seen a little bit. But what I did want to actually call out is the staff here can do what they do because the amount of support they get from their community, because everything is about the community and our population. And in particular, and I should have called it out when we looked at the year-end numbers, 161 volunteers here. These are amazing people, and I don't know whether many of you are in the audience that really allow us to do what we do best. The total number of volunteer hours, I hope you remember, was 23,000. You know, that is at times almost like full-time work. And the other thing that I wanted to perhaps acknowledge was the Queen Elizabeth charity contributions. You saw the commencement of robotic surgery here, which is really now going to be part of the Norfolk System Centres of Excellence. But that could not have happened without the £1 million donation from that charity. So it has just been absolutely amazing. The progress that has been made, the progress that will continue to be made, is an absolute testament to the work that is done here every day. So now I'm going to hand over, because you're going to hear in a little bit more detail some of the things that we have shown. I'm going to hand over to Emma Clark, who's a consultant nurse in palliative medicine, to talk about the absolutely fabulous Peddars Way Unit. Welcome, Emma.
Just excuse me, everybody, but I've just at the tail end of laryngitis, so it keeps on me to have a little drink. So, as Leslie said, thank you. My name is Emma Clark, and I'm a consultant nurse in palliative care and clinical lead, and also the clinical lead for the Peddars Way Unit. So, I'm very proud to share some of the details of that. So, back in May 2022. The need of this type of unit was identified through feedback from patients and relatives. And one of the main themes of complaints around end-of-life care was around the environment and the availability or lack of side rooms. So I envisaged that this unit would be predominantly nurse-led, with myself as a clinical lead, leading a team of both substantive and rotational staff, which would provide an opportunity or the end-of-life skills that they learn on the unit to be taken back to their original ward areas. And the unit is aimed at 25% of patients who very sadly die in hospital because they're either too sick to be discharged, or the hospital is their preferred place of death, or that they deteriorate too rapidly to enable them to get home to make it to their original preferred venue of care. And the unit would be for those patients who are sadly in their final hours of the day. And the unit was in no way intended to replace any existing palliative care provision, but to complement what great facilities that we already have in our educated houses. It was also important that patients that are unable to be cared for on the unit could still receive good care on the acute wards. So this project ran in conjunction with a number of other improvement projects, such as caring with kindness and grief. So in November 2023, support for this project was pledged by the executive team, and we were extremely fortunate to have a very generous legacy donation made to the hospital's charitable funds, which was able to financially support the build. And then building for a 5-bedded, fully en-suite unit then started, above the already planned discharge lounge build. The planning was very much a team effort, with clinical staff working alongside the estates teams, the projects teams, the construction teams, and the palliative care team made several site visits during the build, and you can see us there with our hard hats on. Following some stakeholder engagement, which included a stand at the Dying Matters event last year, we asked members of the hospital and our palliative care patients and their families what they would like to see in such a unit. And there was a unanimous ask for an outdoors-in feeling with a focus on nature, particularly so with the unit being on the first floor and no media access to a garden area. And rather than numbering the rooms, we wanted to name them. So following suggestions made to us, we named the rooms blossom, lavender, oak, meadow, and willow. And these images here are the beautiful skylights on the ceilings of each room, which were all designed by a palliative care team. I'm sure that many local people will know the Peddars Way Trail, but for those who don't, it's a locally well-known Roman road stretching from Suffolk all the way up to the Norfolk coast. Naming the unit Peddars Way would be in keeping with the outdoors, this nature feel, while still being in line with naming all our wards in the hospital after cases in Norfolk. This is Nicola Marrowwood. Nicola is a very talented local community artist who created the most wonderful artwork. For the unit and each of the rooms. Nicola held some art workshops with members of the palliative care and the project team so that we could all be involved and have our ideas brought to life. And Nicola even let us loose with a paintbrush under strict supervision. And you can see here some of her brilliant artwork. And here's some more of that brilliant artwork and some of those finishing touches. The wall mural that you can see there in the centre is in the relatives room, and that's Wells Harbour. We all feel that the unit has a much less clinical feel and has a calm and peaceful air to it. And I hope that that comes across to you all in these photos. This is an example of one of the rooms. It's the lavender room. And you can see the skylight and the artwork, as well as the less clinical furniture. Furniture in each of the rooms is colour coordinated to each room theme. The electricians on the project were really touched by what the unit was all about, so they very generously donated us TVs for all of the rooms and for the relatives room. And the furniture and ceiling lights were funded by our Hospital League of Friends, and we're really grateful for their generosity because we get such lovely feedback from these. The rooms all have a large ensuite bathroom, and relatives are able to stay on the unit 24 hours a day if they wish to, and indeed many do. Peddars Way Unit was officially opened on the 10th of December last year by Nicola Ellis, CEO of Tappingham. And it was an honour to have a bereaved relative there as well as our VIP guest, who made a very emotional speech and there wasn't a dry eye. And then the next day we had our very first patient come to the unit. So far, well, up to the end of June, we provided last days of life care for 211 patients. And most of these patients came from the urgent care and the medical wards. And the average length of stay for our patients up to this time was almost 4 days. The unit has been at full capacity 97 to 100% of the time, and we've had lots of excellent feedback from families, and you can see an example of this feedback here. And we're really proud that our families feel as well cared for as our patients, because we all know how difficult this time can be and how exhausting it is for them. And I'm hugely proud of the team on Peddars because their passion and commitment to making a difference at what can be the most difficult and emotional time in people's lives really shines through. So what next for the unit? It's vital that we learn from feedback and listen to suggestions as to how we can make it even better, because the unit's focus will always be on patient and carer experience. The team are doing a second walk for Peddars in September, where we'll be walking 26 miles at the Peddars Way path to fundraise. And it's with the generous donations made by relatives and through fundraising such as this that we've been able to purchase lots of non-clinical extras and supplies for relatives, such as music, books, lighting, memory boxes, and so on. We're also planning an anniversary service in December, which I'm sure will be very moving. I'll hand you over to Paula for it.
Hello, thank you, Emma, and good afternoon. First, can you hear me? So firstly, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Paula Fuller. I'm the complex discharge matron at UE, and I've been for the last 4.5 years, arriving just in the middle of COVID. Today, I'll be talking to you about transformation within the been undertaken within the UE discharge planning, with the introduction of accelerated discharge pathways over the past year to 18 months.
We've done it. Next time, please. That's fine. In January 2023-24, patients within the hospital were spending weeks and weeks at a time in hospital waiting for a supported discharge. Obviously, if we're unable to discharge patients in a timely way, this directly impacts, can you still hear me? I'm moving away from impacts on the ability of the QE to deliver acute services. One discharge from the QE can directly impact on 5 individuals. Let me give an example. So a patient is discharged from a core ward. A patient is then able to move from the assessment units into that core ward. That frees up those within the assessment unit for an ED patient to go in to, which frees up space in ED, which allows an ambulance potentially to offload, who then can respond to community emergencies. Furthermore, the evidence is clear that prolonged hospital stays, by which I mean stays over 7 days, post non-criteria to reside or medically fit for discharge day, does lead to marked deterioration in people's mental health, an increased risk of hospital-acquired infection, and muscle loss. All of this especially affects our older patients, as they are the group of people most likely to have delayed discharge. Next slide, please. Thank you. We began by re-examining our processes, particularly for Pathway 1 and 2, discharges, and how we could speed up the processes or take steps out completely. For your information, Pathway 1 is home with support from carers. Care can range from once-a-day care to 4 times a day double-up care, so 2 carers going 4 times a day to look after an individual. Home has been proved to be the best option if possible, as individuals recover better in familiar surrounding, but only if it's safe to do so. Pathway 2 is the bedded option for those unable to return home immediately because they require extra time for recovery or extra rehabilitation to ensure safe discharge home or next step planning. Next slide, please. During COVID, Pathway 1 we're talking about. During COVID, a number of extra processes steps were added to the discharge journey, which meant that on average, a person who needed support at home were having to wait an average of 8 extra days in hospital. In many cases, far longer than this before support was arranged. So by removing these unnecessary steps and by making direct referrals to the provider, in this case Norfolk for support, we have been able to reduce the amount of time people spend waiting for care from 8 days to 2.5 days. A massive decrease of 5.5 days. This significantly, 40% of those people are discharged within 24 hours from referral, which is absolutely brilliant for the patient. The next slide demonstrates this perfectly visually. We have come a long way in a relatively short time, and I am keen to push the same day discharges on Pathway 1. You get a bit of a theme going. Next slide, please. So we've had excellent patient feedback. So 83% have said that the service is good or excellent. From our perspective, so from an organisation perspective, the added bonus from the change of is the discharge team. We have built really good relationships based on mutual respect and trust with our community providers. I know when the front door is busy, I am busier than normal. I am able to call on community providers, particularly Norfolk for support, who will help drive discharges and start to ease the pressure at the door. Next slide, please. Moving on to Pathway 2s. Now, remember, Pathway 2s are bedded patients, so those who can't return home straight away, and an option to continue recovery or rehabilitation and long-term planning. With the extra steps introduced during COVID, the average length of stay for Pathway 2 patients was 15 days, with many staying for several months. Too many staying for several months, from non-criteria to reside then to actual discharge. With the introduction of directly commissioned beds or beds managed by the complex discharge team, we have been able to reduce the average length of stay from 15 days to 5 days, post non-criteria to reside. However, as my team will tell you, I'm never satisfied, and we're working to reduce this further with a goal of 48 hours or less post non-criteria to reside. The next slide shows clearly the reduction in length of stay, which is really good for our patients because obviously they're sitting in hospital with all these risks. We're driving forward in building relationships with local care homes to enable consistent 7-day-a-week discharges by, again, building mutual trust. This has been supported by the trusted assessment model. A trusted assessment is used in context of hospital discharge. It relies on the trusted assessors, who currently are my complex discharge sisters and also clinical coordinators from the Home First Hub, taken on assessments on behalf of other services. In this case, care homes. The approach has streamlined the assessment process, reduced delays, and ensured timely and appropriate care provision is made. Next slide, please. Finally, Professor Brian Donnelly, who works tirelessly to improve deconditioning in hospital. I can't see that, so you'll have to read it. Apologies. Patients' time is the most important currency in healthcare, and while our time is important, our patients' time is sacred. With this in mind, we are working closely with care homes to introduce the trusted assessment model across all care homes in Norfolk. Moving forward, I'm very keen that we look at ways of improving discharges both in Cambridgeshire and Lincolnshire patients, because they are, although a small number, they are part of our cohort. Although I feel this is going to be challenging, it will be a challenge. I know it will be a challenge. I have started to approach the different organisations in both Cambridgeshire and Lincolnshire, and it's not a long process. That's it. Thank you very much. And I'll hand over now to Helen. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm head of the education faculty, and I'm really pleased to be returning this year. Last year, presenting the road that we've undertaken as a faculty, and this year sharing our journey to become a teaching hospital. Now, over the last 18 months, we have understood and know that we have seen great progression in the quality of our education delivery. So we were very keen to evidence that, and we've evidenced that within our journey. So there's some very key areas that I'll go through with you whilst I present this journey. But we know that we provide high quality learning environments to our students, our trainees, and our staff at all stages of their development. We have really strong academic partnerships, and that will be explained to you through the presentation that I'm delivering today. We collaborate with our universities, and we help to co-design and deliver impactful clinical education. We are absolutely committed to embedding research into our everyday practices and driving improvements in care. We play a vital role as an organisation in our community to really develop our workforce development, and we do that with innovation. Our true strength at QEH is our person-centred learning culture, so the patient experience that you talked about in the introduction. And I'll talk about some of those programmes. System leadership is also key in what we're delivering. We are contributing nationally and regionally to our healthcare education workforce developments. Next slide, please. Oh, have I? That's what I was talking about. I'm used to having a laptop in front of me. Now, just bear with me because I really want to showcase some of that excellence in the programmes that we are undertaking. So one of our programmes is the GROW programme, and that is a programme for our new healthcare support workers who join our organisation. We have received an NHSE commendation for this programme because of the supportive approach to encouraging those who are new to healthcare to safely transition into our acute environments. We also have a retention rate following that programme of 98%. We have adapted that programme for our medical students from the University of Cambridge and University of East Anglia. This has enabled us to really work with them on fundamental care, communication and team working. There is another programme that is quite unique to QEH, and that is the Prepare programme. And we have been working with NHSE around sharing that regionally and nationally. Now, the Prepare programme is a pre-preceptorship programme, and it is for our final year pre-registration learners. And it is a really supportive approach that really gives them a sense of belonging to the organisation, but also prepares them for the complexity and challenges of working in the NHS for their first positions. As you will see from the slide, we have been successful at becoming finalists in awards. So last year we were finalists for the NHS Parliamentary Award, and that was nationally, but we were regional winners. Now, this was a new category for 2024, and this was Excellence in Education and Training Award. We were also finalists for Nursing Times Workforce Award. This was our 4th year, so this is about that sustainability of quality of being a finalist. But this was the first year in the category of Best Workplace for Learning and Development. Now, the programmes that were entered into those awards, they were our portfolio of patient-centred education. So this was our Caring with Kindness programmes, which Emma made reference to. Bereavement and frailty is everybody's business. Now, they are truly led and developed by the patient voice. They are led by our subject matter experts, and a number of these programmes we deliver and openly have access to the Norfolk and Waveney system. So many of our health and social care providers do have access to these programmes. It's really important that we have quality assurance processes so that we can check the quality of the programmes that we are delivering. And we have taken a number of our programmes through an accreditation process. If we move to the next slide, please. So with this year, it's really important as part of that journey that we can demonstrate the governance and strategy that we have with our future ambitions. So we launched our education objectives and our strategy. So within them, the more specific objectives are around clinical excellence through education and research, governance and compliance with education and research. Really important that we focus on our sustainable workforce development, innovation in patient safety, and building a supportive learning environment and culture. And in really embracing and working with our community and academic partners. Next slide, please. One of our new developments that will really strengthen our workforce development is our new working and launch of our satellite site with Anglo Ruskin University. So in December, we completed a quality assurance process. This was really to enable programmes to be delivered at Queen Elizabeth Hospital within our education facilities. Now, I'll just give you some details on what that will look like to QEH as a trust, but also our community. The programmes that will be delivered will not only be apprenticeship pathways, but they will be direct entry programmes as well. So students within our area who are looking for university access will be able to go onto the Anglo Ruskin University pages, and they will see the Queen Elizabeth Hospital as a site option to attend and complete their programme. We are due to launch our first cohort, and we will be doing a soft start initial launch in September of this year with the Apprenticeship Nurse and Associate programme. Next slide, please. we have future ambitions as well. We are currently in the process of working towards gaining accreditation for our simulation school. I'd like to take a moment to thank the QEH charities, because without their support, the development of this education infrastructure and equipment they have has been really helpful in enabling us to move forward. Now, this accreditation will demonstrate that we meet a number of quality standards in terms of the competency of our education faculty and delivery of the programmes that we offer. Simulation education is truly important. It's an opportunity to enable our staff to gain confidence in a safe environment to go out into our clinical areas. So really key to patient safety. Next slide, please. As part of the journey, it was really important that we engaged with our stakeholders. So we just take a moment to note some of the responses that we had. We were absolutely thrilled to receive the responses. In particular, I'd like to make reference to the response from Professor Paul Wilkinson, the Clinical Dean at the University of Cambridge, where absolutely showcases the sustainability of the support in clinical areas for the medical students. And QEH is top rated over the years of the 4.5 years that he's been working with us across 13 different trusts. So that's really a really positive endorsement. Next slide, please. So there were a number of governance processes that we went through in order to assure ourselves that we were at the right standards. So we worked through our Education, Research and Innovation Group. We presented at our governors meeting and our People and Culture committees, and finally at the board in order to gain assurance. And this couldn't happen without the support of our executive team for their leadership and support, our non-executive directors for their guidance in our development, but also what we really need to recognise is the educators and supervisors and assessors out there in practice who are truly making those clinical learning environments safe and a positive culture for our learners. Sustainability is key, and we look forward to our next steps at the teaching hospital and working with our new group in Norfolk and Waveney University Hospitals so that we can share this growth that we've undertaken this will be a great opportunity. Next steps in completing the process is a name changing process, and we look forward to completing that as well. And I'm going to hand over to Marcus now.
Slight adjustment again. Okay, as the CFO, you always like to think that this is the most exciting part of the annual members meeting, but those three, yeah, that exact look there, the sort of look my wife would have given me. But Emma, Paula and Helen, those were fantastic presentations and just go to show what amazing work is going on in this organisation. So thanks very much for that. But those of you who are not really numbers based can just sort of, look away for a few minutes. If you are interested in the numbers, we will roll through the numbers for the last financial year. Like Mark and Leslie, I feel slightly inadequate in doing so because I wasn't here. I was appointed at a similar time to Mark and Leslie in terms of as the group CFO. But so right at the outset, I want to say a great thanks to Lorraine, and I can't see her in the audience. Oh, there she is, right in the front there. So Lorraine, really pleased that I'm pointing her out. And the finance team that have done all the work in the background with regards to this, because it's no mean feat in terms of, and we'll talk about the challenge that this last financial year particularly has had, and then we'll touch upon a little bit looking forward as well. So look, my thanks right at the outset to the work that they have done in securing the set of accounts that we're just about to walk through. So if we could just go to the first slide. I always like to put a bit of context in terms of the financial position, because it's not sort of 1 year in isolation. So it's useful, mostly when you see a set of accounts, you see the prior year as well. But it's just useful to see set in context what has happened in terms of the last 3 years. And you can see our patient income. This isn't our total income, but our patient-directed income. Our total income was 325 million or thereabouts. And you can see that nearly 300 million of that was our patient level income. So some of the things that have just been talked about, we get education monies as well, and there's a variety of other things that we get money for. But you can see that that's not grown very much in the last few years. It's around about 7% growth in our patient income. Cash, which I was always taught as doing my exams at the beginning, cash is king. And you can see that cash has gradually been reducing, and from a really relatively healthy position for the size of organisation at 44 million 3 years ago to just down to 22 million at the end of the financial year. And then I guess the key bit at the bottom there is the surplus or deficit. We had 2 years where we've been able to maintain the sort of the position in terms of a break even. So each NHS organisation has a statutory duty of having to break even on an annual basis. And in the last year, we weren't able to do that. So in 24-25, we had quite a significant deficit. The journey, I guess, started probably going back those 3 years in some ways, but it's come out in the last financial year. And really, it's probably over a number of years that we've not sustainably been able to deliver the recurrent savings that each NHS organisation. I wasn't in this NHS organisation during the financial year, but I was in another NHS organisation. My career has been in NHS finance. And it's the same story across the NHS. So this organisation, in some ways, is no different to others, but has had some particular acute problems in the last year. So broadly, about halfway through the year, we were running at a deficit of nearly £3.5 million per month. And those of you that run your own businesses will know you can't run at that level of deficit for too long before you hit the barriers and you crash. And we sort of did that partway through last year, and the trust engaged a financial recovery team. We managed to get some level of grip and control through the back end of last financial year, and that's run rate, as we say, the monthly deficit or the monthly surplus position. That run rate reduced down from the sort of heights of nearly £3.5 million per month down to almost just under 2 million by the end of March. I'll just touch briefly on going into this financial year in that we have got a break-even plan again, but that plan is underpinned by somewhere around just over £20 million worth of deficit support money from our commissioners. And you can see that broadly, if we roll out the 1.9 million and multiply by 12, then you're going to get to somewhere around about that number. That it's around about 20 to 24 million, something like that we've got as deficit support in this financial year. So this year is going to be another tough year that we've got to deliver in our financial position. I'm going to move on a slide. You can see in terms of our income, the growth from back in 22-23 right up to 24-25. And I guess the first bullet point is the key one, that our income has increased by 7%. And you can see that the majority of that is our patient level income. So 90+% is patient level income. If we just scroll on to the next slide. And this is where you'll spot the problem, because back in 22-23, our expenditure was 333 million, and it's grown to 405 million in the last financial year. So that 7% growth in income has been offset by a growth of 22% in expenditure. And in the last financial year particularly, that growth was nearly 13%. Hence why the sort of financial turnaround and the delivery and the grip and control that has been required in the last year. And as I say, I think the finance team and the exec team, as well as the non-execs, have done a fantastic job in stabilising the position, in putting forward a balanced financial position this year. But just looking back on last year, it was a really tough year. And I mean, as I said already, the clinical presentation's just absolutely amazing that they've managed to do that in an organisation that has had such other things going on, such difficulties going on. So we're continuing with that grip and control process, and we've really sort of looked at what we're spending our money on and what we need to spend our money on, and we're sort of getting that balance between making sure that we deliver safe services and deliver on our performance objectives. And I think one of the things was we're one of the best in the country for breast cancer in terms of performance. Absolutely fantastic. We need to get all of our services up like that, while still delivering on our financial promise as well. And balancing all of those things is what the executive and the non-exec and then management of the organisation is there to deliver upon. Just moving on from I&E, final slide from me, just looking at some of our capital expenditure. And in the last financial year, we spent circa 65 million pounds worth of capital. And the majority of that was funded directly by the government. So 48 million of that was nationally funded capital. And most of that nationally funded capital, you can see, was sorting out some of the RAC issues that we've got, 35.8 million of it. And then other bits of it for clinical infrastructure are CDC, so both the actual building and the equipment that goes in it. Plus, then right at the bottom there, we've got the investment in our digital infrastructure as well. So we will be going live across the whole of the group, but in this organisation with our new electronic patient record in March time next year. So I will pause there. I believe I'm handing over to Antonia, and thanks very much for listening.
Thank you for inviting me to present the Governor's report. The Foundation Trust members are vital to our work, and our membership is broadly reflective of the populations we serve, with over 2/3 from West Norfolk. All staff are enrolled as members unless they choose to opt out when they join the Trust. This year, our Governor and Membership Officer delivered presentations at all our staff induction sessions, which has really helped with them knowing they are members of the Trust. Our public membership database has decreased this year as we chose to move to an online membership model. This has saved the Trust a considerable sum in postage, but also makes our membership much more up to date and informed. Next slide, please. All members were invited to vote in our Governor elections, which were held in January this year. We had some excellent co-production between the comms team and our FT officer, with videos produced to support the Governor elections. 2 staff governors and 2 public governors shared their experience of being governors and what the Council of Governors had achieved for the Trust. This led to some very healthy competition for the available seats, which was a nice change, actually, highlighting strong engagement and commitment across our constituencies. My constituency of Beckland, North Norfolk and West of England, quite a large one clearly, had 3 candidates for 1 seat. West Norfolk had 13 candidates applicants for 4 seats, and the 2 staff constituencies of clinical and non-clinical had 8 candidates for 5 seats. Our other 2 constituencies were elected unopposed. Next slide, thank you. So I would like to welcome all our new governors to the council. So representing West Norfolk, we have Teresa, Bob and Andrew. For Cambridgeshire Fenland, we have Mark. And in the staff constituency, we have Ruth, Risa, Karen and Alistair. In the past year, we've also welcomed Matthew to the council as the appointed governor from Freebridge Community Housing. And our re-elected governors are Sarah, Chris, Leanne and myself. As we've all discovered this year, there's a hugely increased workload for governors. So I'd really like to thank you all for sticking with this and for all your hard work. Even more importantly, I must thank the governors who have left us for various reasons. Gilly, who's somewhere in the room, did sterling work with the Youth Council. John Grayson, who chaired our membership engagement and communications group. Julian Litton, who helped guide the Charitable Funds Committee and Dementia Garden so brilliantly. Gary Munger and Kenneth Wicks, who are both long-standing governors. Our fantastic head of catering stood down for bringing Governor Stewart. And our appointed governors, Andy Walder from Freebridge Community Housing and Jane Evans from West Norfolk Carers. You've all made an enormous impact and a difference to the trust, and you are missed. Thank you for giving up the time. The council met 4 times in public during the year and has worked hard towards developing better two-way communication between the council and the board. The council, the governors' groups of membership engagement and culture, strategy and business planning and patient experience have been instrumental in progressing this and holding the non-executive directors to account for the performance of the board. Within the groups, we work closely with our non-executive director colleagues to bring issues raised with us to the correct forum for discussion. We receive regular departmental presentations on topics of interest, so our knowledge of hospital services is very broad. We also receive great email updates every week from the comms team, which we use to talk to our public and the members when we're out and about. The main focus of the council this year has been to improve our visibility. So we go internally and externally, so everyone knows about us, which sounds terrible, but it's really important for the trust. Our governors are on a host of internal fora within the hospital, from the new QEH to the Charitable Funds Committee. Governors have been involved in 19 quality assurance visits, which includes a total of 40 participating governors, and have taken part in the place audits. Externally, we have attended the College of West Anglia Freshers' Fair, Great East Anglia Run, Sannion Far Festival, Marham Open Day and QEH Career Fairs. And we are planning a dedicated members newsletter in the very near future, so we can increase our offer to members. Perhaps our most unique feature of the Council of Governors is our offer to attend all patient participation groups in our constituencies. There are 20 GP practices that regularly send or refer patients to QEH, and we've contacted all of them to offer governor representation. Not all want us to attend their groups for some funny reason, but those who do really do appreciate governor input. They feel it's a fast track for them to hear what's happening at the hospital, and we gain really rich feedback for their members. All in all, it's been a very busy year for the governors, and I think it's going to get even busier this year as we move to a group model. But we're looking forward to representing the members of the trust and our community and ensuring the voice of the hospital is heard. And I'm now going to hand on back to Leslie and Chris for looking ahead. Thank you.
That's a bit easier. Thank you, Antonia. So looking ahead is really the important, because as much as it is to reflect on where we've come from and all of the great things that have been done, it's important that we take those forward, that we actually scale those up and have a bigger impact across the system. So I've been asked to talk a little bit about what does the group mean. Now, Mark in some ways has stolen my thunder, which is great. So I'm going to take that just a little bit more broadly. And I think it's important to understand that the group is around choosing those things that we know we can do better together, in learning from each other and making sure that what we're not doing is detracting from the identity and the importance and the sense of belonging of our trusts. It is really to allow that to happen. I describe my role as a leader of leaders, and that's at all levels in our organisation, and we can only do what we do because of that. And I have to say, after listening to the presentations from Emma and Paula and Helen, we've got an awful lot to learn from each other. And so I know that when we entered the group, there was potentially some trepidation. One trust is bigger than the other two. Are they going to take over? And nothing could be further than the truth, because in fact, what we're discovering is that in fact, the true strength lies within the people that make up our three trusts and the things that they are doing. I think Marcus missed a real opportunity, Marcus, in your presentation, because as Paula was speaking, I was starting to add up the money that you have saved by the work that you're doing. Because in fact, what we do have is a challenge, and it's not a challenge, but it's just the clever figures. It's a challenge around how we spend our money, how we provide services that our community, our population really need to keep them healthy. But particularly, how do we do things better and do things better together? We joined as a group at a time of probably the most change since 1948 in the NHS, where we have got to ourselves to this point post a pandemic and said, if we keep doing what we're doing now, we will run out of money. More importantly, we're going to run out of goodwill of our staff, and therefore we will not be able to produce the care that we need to. So part of the role of the group is to really make sure that we take those opportunities to deliver the 10-year plan. And the 10-year plan is actually not all about us. It's actually about working differently. So there are three main shifts, and you've probably heard these 100 times, but I'll say them one more time because they're really important. We're being asked now to stop thinking so much about illness. What is it we do once you get here? But to work in a different way to ensure that, in fact, we're helping prevent illness. And we're coming in our group off a great basis of research, of innovation and partnership. And this is where we learn from each other. The second shift is around from hospital to community. And you might say, so why are we building hospitals? Well, it's not that hospitals won't be there, and they have to be fit for the future, fit for purpose, and offer those really cutting edge treatments that people need. But hopefully you don't need as often as you have in the past. Or if you do, we're coming to you rather than you always coming to us. And the third one, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment, is from analogue to digital. I think many people now train in very different ways, and then they come and work for us and they must feel that they've stepped back in time with the technology that they use. But in fact, more importantly, this is about us using technology to ensure that we deliver care in a better and smarter way. So as I said, each hospital is going to continue to be the hospital that its community needs it to be, but it's going to work really differently with its partners in the community, in local government, and we will all step into these big changes that we need to make. I feel really privileged to be part of the team that I have. I'm one of them. But in actual fact, our team extends to each of our trusts. And I think the Queen Elizabeth is something pretty special. It's got a real feeling about it. We walk in, it's so embedded in its community. And the fact that we're hearing about not only the work that has been done, but the ambition for the future is something that the group has to get behind, scale up and amplify and make it a reality. So one of those, if we go to the next slide, is around the electronic patient's record. Now, a bit like Marcus, you think, will people get excited about this? Possibly not, but you should be. And you should be, because this is one of the biggest pieces of digital transformation that we've ever undertaken. And this is very much by moving from paper-based paper records to electronic ones. But more importantly, hopefully it will stop when you come to one hospital, if you happen to go to another, but within the hospitals themselves, having to repeat your story, because we all know that happens. Now, sometimes we do that just to check, but in fact, we are not able to see your history. And that makes it really important. What we do is we modernise. It's a foundation, it's only the beginning. And in that shift from analogue to digital, this gives us the opportunity to really start to scale up, start using technology in a different way. It goes live in March 2025, and that is going to come up about in frighteningly quick time. You have got lots of people, and again, we've had Storm from some of our EDR team showing us what the possibility is. This is a clinically driven initiative. So don't think this is around, this is what we're going to do. You know, clinical staff, please use it. The design of it is actually in the hands of our clinicians. And we'll use cutting edge technology to make sure that we are able to access your healthcare. But in fact, for the staff to be able to make sure that they can then start connecting with other partners. So it is really a game changer for this system. It's really exciting, you know, when you come together as three trusts to say what happens together and what we can do better. This preceded the group, but in fact it enabled it because we had already started to work together in a different way and could see the possibility. So I think the future with the group supporting where it needs to, standing back when it needs to and saying, get on, take a lead on that, is going to make sure that all of our trusts not only survive, but we thrive over the next few years of change with the senior plan. I'm going to hand over to Chris Bound, and he's going to give you a little bit more detail on things that are absolutely special here at the Queen Elizabeth.
Okay, so I'm going to, can you hear me from here without a microphone?
Yeah. It's such a show,
yeah,
isn't
okay.
it? It's loud.
It's just I didn't want to print anything off, so I'm going to use the screen. So we've got a slide. Okay. Well, if you didn't think the electronic patient record was exciting, you certainly should think that this is exciting because the new hospital programme, and I've been in the QE for less than 2 months, but this is clearly the absolute future for us here. And we're talking about, you know, this is over £1 billion being spent in King's Lynn on what will be one of the most modern and digitally enabled hospitals in Europe. That's something really positive for the people of West Norfolk and our broader population. We are doing a number of enabling schemes to make sure that by what is now, and I think one of our governors mentioned, a 2032 completion date, and we can deal with the issue about will the building fall down before then in a minute. It won't, so don't worry, but we can talk about that. So by 2032, we will have one of the best hospitals in Europe sat here in West Norfolk. We're designing it in a way that will meet the changes and challenges that we will face from 2032 onwards. What that means is that the way we're delivering and providing our healthcare now will have to change, both in clinical practice terms, in how we provide outpatients, and just fundamentally a different way of providing healthcare. And we all know that we've seen changes in healthcare over our lifetime. You know, I'm pretty old, but not that old, and I can remember my mother saying that she spent 2 weeks in hospital after I was born. And I was apparently a normal birth and she was a healthy young woman. But 2 weeks in hospital, convalescing. I think my dad enjoyed it. So look how it's changed in my lifetime. And therefore we have to design a hospital that is going to adapt to the future changes that we see. We are making progress. In fact, yesterday there's mention of the helipad on there. We actually got formal confirmation of that we've received planning permission for the relocation of the helipad. That's a big step forward. We are signed off and agreed the what's known as the strategic outline case for the hospital. It's an important step forward. We're now continuing to work with the full business or the outline business case to a full business case. These are all things that are leading or adding to the momentum of the fact that this is actually going to happen. This isn't pie in the sky anymore. This is real. We're due to break ground on a new car parking is really important, isn't it? Everyone talks about car parking, so I'm going to talk about it. A new multi-storey car park beginning the spring of 2026, expecting to open in October 27. So that is a key step towards, let's just say it again, one of the most modern hospitals in Europe in King's Lynn. So something to really look forward to. And I think we should be excited about this. This is going to be a stunning building. But as Leslie said, it's a building within a system. It's a building within a portfolio of services that will serve our local community, because we don't want everybody going to that building and having to travel to hospital. We want to ensure that services are provided as close to people's homes, as clinically and indeed financially sustainable. So the way that we use that hospital will have to be different. And that's what the clinical teams here with colleagues in the community and general practice will be working on now to ensure that we have a health service that is modern for the 2032 onwards bit of our journey. Let's look at outpatients. All you need to do is Google a picture of outpatients and put outpatients 1920 in the Google. And then do a picture, and look at that picture, and then put outpatients 2025. Those pictures are very, very similar. Nothing much has changed in the way that we provide outpatients since the 1920s and before. The rest of medicine, of course, has changed dramatically since the 1920s, but outpatients hasn't. So we need to look at why we have and bring hundreds and indeed thousands of patients into a hospital to have an outpatient appointment. Do we really need to do that? Is there a better way for patients and clinicians to do that, and we move away from what I call the 1920s model? And that's what we've got to start thinking about in all our services to ensure that that building is maximised for the people of Norfolk. Okay, next slide. Right. If I've heard charity mentioned this afternoon once, I've heard it 20 times, and it just shows the importance, doesn't it, of the charitable sector in supporting health services. So I have to say another big thank you for all the charities that have supported us and continue to support us. Here, we've seen the Queen Elizabeth Hospital charity donating £255,000 for the refurbishment of our Macmillan Cancer Care and Treatment Centre. This centre was first opened in 2011, and it's important that this refurbishment will now create more welcoming, comfortable and functional space for a modern healthcare setting. So work started on the project this month, and it's due to open and be completed in September. Is that still going to happen, Paul, September? Yeah, it's still on target for September. And what you'll see is that £255,000 will provide more patient-centred environment, aligning with emotional and physical needs. We've seen with Peddars what can be done in the way of a physical environment that improves the healthcare for our patients. This is the same approach. So this is a dual focus, ensuring we get better care, quality, increased patient satisfaction, and improved staff retention. Much nicer working in an environment like this. And I know I went to Peddars on the first Sunday I was here, and I can understand why the staff I met were so happy about working in that lovely environment. And that will be the case here. So a big thank you for the Queen Elizabeth charity. Okay, I think we're now on to questions. So I think I'm going to facilitate the best I can. Do we have microphone? We do. So we have microphones for people that would like to use them. So I'm going to open up for question. Let's address, Paul, do you want to address the question about will the building stay up until the new hospital's built, so we can address that issue?
Certainly, Chris. Can people hear me okay at the back if I don't use the microphone? Yeah. Goodness me, thank you. It's got that, it's the whale noises that appear halfway through that I think we all have an anxiety after the original report that said that the building, the rack failure we would be able to last through to 2030 and no longer. I think on the journey, and we're in year 5 of a 6-year programme with the rack fail-safe, we're still on programme. The works are going very, very well. And we'll look to complete that to 18 months' time, and the wall reinforcements will be completed this summer. So we're well on our way to making sure that the fail-safes across the whole network of this building are in place. over the last 5 years, not only have we been doing the work, but we've also been doing the research with Loughborough University. And what it shows, we know so much more about RAC and how it's affected by temperature, by water, and by the pressures, and by some of the work we're doing, which is removing a lot of the plant and heavy weights off the roof and putting those in the courtyards, which you can see in the 2 courtyards behind me. That takes an added pressure off. So we're really confident that actually, when we get to the end of this, our structure will be safe. We will be fail-safe. And I think we've always said that doesn't mean it won't fail. But if it does fail, it will fail in a way that will protect the inhabitants inside the hospital and those working here. And that's what we need to aim for. Mott McDonald, the national structural engineers, have been back to site. They've crawled all over us, literally, the work we've done. They've asked us questions. They're really happy with the work we've done now. We're expecting that report back around about September. And what we're hoping is that we'll say that the work we've carried out and the plans we've got continuing work, because not just fail-safe in this hospital, is other things we've got to fix and keep going between now and 2032 when we open the new doors, that our plans are sound and that we've got the right level of engagement and also the right level of funding to continue that process. So we're here to tell you that actually that work's being done. We are planning, and now we know that we've got to make the building ECAT just that little bit longer, that we're looking wider than just the RAC and the other services to make sure that you're still able to turn up, get the services that you require here in a safe environment.
Thank you, Paul. Okay. Any other questions? Gentleman Alex at the back.
I can shout. Everyone here. Yeah, my name's Alex Stewart. I'm the Chief Executive of Health Watch. One of the things I find quite exciting about the 10-year plan is that it's quite revolutionary in some respects, although there's a lot of similarities to the Darty report many years ago. But my main concern with it all is how you're going to ensure that patients have a voice that is independent and representative. Currently, it looks as though it's going to go out the window, and I feel worried if trusts and ICBs are going to be marking their own homework. Similarly, one of the things I think we really could exploit, and I don't mean that in a sort of historic way of, the sort of 19th century exploitation, but the Youth Council, for example, that is currently working in the Queen Elizabeth, provides an absolutely superb opportunity to actually gauge the views of young people who can then be ambassadors. There's going to be a transformational change in the way health services are delivered, and they're the people we need to actually educate and teach so that they can go out and voice these opinions for us. So I suppose my question is, how do you propose to ensure that this still happens?
Okay. Does anyone... Leslie, do you, as I say, first of all, we have to find a way, don't we, Alex, to ensure that that doesn't disappear. But I think, Leslie.
There you are, Alex. Hello down there. Look, I think it's beholden on all of us, and we're even hearing today, this is a trust that is well and truly embedded in its community. But in fact, our patient voice around the co-design of the things that we do, not just our buildings and infrastructure, but we can't make assumptions about what matters to you, what's important to you. Things will change. Different organisations will change. As I said, this is the biggest change that we're going to have in the NHS, and there have been lots of reviews. But there is now a growing requirement for trusts like ourselves, working in partnership, to be able to demonstrate how it listens to the patient voice in the provision of services, in whether or not those services have actually hit the mark. We're going to need help to do that. We're going to need help to navigate that. And I think people, that have only worked in acute hospitals, we actually need to learn how to work within our community, because somehow when we step in here, we forget we are a member of that community. And so I think that we're going to have some local choices around how we want to set ourselves up with the ICB. As well. So I don't think it will be lost, because in fact it's going to become more important and will be part of assessments of what we're doing to make sure that we are developing and delivering appropriate services. But I think it will be different. But we're going to have to learn and be navigated our way through that in a way we never had before. Just want to pick up on the Youth Council, because the last board meeting that I attended here at the Queen Elizabeth, we had the most wonderful story through that. And it's something that the three trusts are looking at. How do we make sure we get a different generational force into the services that we provide as well? Because we not only want to attract people into our services, but we want to hear from those as well, because these are about services not for now, that's important, but also for the future. So I think it's not a matter of buffers where we know we're alert to it. We are actually making sure that we design into everything we do the ability to take that voice into our plans, but also to be held accountable by them as well. We need people to tell us if we haven't hit the mark, but we need it much earlier than we know. Well, we'll give it a red hot go, and you tell us what you think. But it is this going to be right? And the whole 10-year plan is very much about turning our direction from looking internally in a trust, in a hospital, to very much looking outside and working with our population in a different way than what we have. So it's a bit of a long answer, but in fact, there are so many checks and balances that are going to be put around us to make sure we do that. But I'm the first to say we can't do it by ourselves. We need our community. We need others who do it better to get alongside us and teach us how to do it and to do it well.
Thank you, Leslie. Okay, any question here?
I'm the other Leslie in the room.
Oh,
Hello,
good. Thank you. I'm Leslie Bambridge, and I'm appointed as a governor by Norfolk County Council. I was very pleased to see about the teaching hospital aspect, but quite disappointed also because a few years ago, not that long ago, the College of West Anglia set up a School of Nursing Studies with the help of funding from the Borough Council and the town deal. Are we still going to work with them? Otherwise, it's I think the local community would prefer that we kept those good relationships going, because it took a lot of funding. I was a borough councillor at the time, so I know that.
Important question.
Yeah. The answer is absolutely. We continue to work with the College of West Anglia on our work experience programme, D-level programme, and also we are developing with a level 3 health apprenticeship for health and social care, which our maternity support workers will also access. And wider than nursing programmes as well, we will continue to look at other programmes that we will require to really sustain our workforce within the QEH hospital, and that is services around catering and beyond as well. But we will be committed to continuing to work with them.
Thank you very much.
Can I just come back to say that it was a level 4, they were teaching level 4, basically. So we're going to be doing that here, and they're not going to be doing it. So despite all the money that was put into it, which is taxpayers' money. It's not their money, it's taxpayers' money.
Sorry, Helen, I'm not clear of the detail.
So they were working with Anglia Ruskin University and are no longer working with Anglia Ruskin University, and we are maintaining that relationship to widen our programmes here.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Governor said he's linking to Chris. Mine in such a request whether you would back my plea. If people have treatment and something goes wrong, we can understand how they put a complaint in. But isn't it also important if somebody has a very good experience, they either electronically or in hard copy let us know about it, because these things are counted and appear in all the things. An awful lot of people tell me they've had a good experience here. I do encourage them to either write or email in about it. Would that be a good idea?
It would, and indeed we do count compliments. We probably need to do it better because, of course, some compliments go straight to the ward or to the individual doctor or nurse, and we, I guess, corporately don't record it. But you're right. The numbers of complaints, of course, hospitals generally have is a tiny percentage of, as you saw the numbers that Leslie presented on the screen earlier. The thousands and thousands of patient contacts that we see every year. Complaints, of course, are a tiny proportion, but we do need to. So, Chris, namesake, I think it's a great idea, Peter. We should encourage people, because if people are getting a good experience, we want to do more of what we're getting right, and we will know that then. So thank you. Yes, definitely.
Excuse me, I've got the meeting. About the digital records, will they be integrated with Papworth and with the GPs? I know some Papworth are sent to my GP, but they don't send to the QE at the moment. Also, will we learn in digitalisation from other hospital experiences? Because in Papworth, it's a state-of-the-art hospital. And on my very first appointment at the new hospital, my consultant couldn't find specific notes in my records because they had been scanned in with no reference to the content or the date of creation. So
yes, they're very important. So let me answer the last question first. Is yes, we definitely will learn from others, because you're right that not all implementations of electronic patient records in the UK, or indeed I would imagine globally, go well. So we want to know and learn from others to make sure that we minimise the risk of things going wrong. And that, from my experience of electronic patient, training is essential, making sure that everyone's trained, including the most senior and eminent of doctors, receive training on how to use the system. If you don't, then you get yourself into difficulty. From the point of view of the linkages with Papworth and general practice, is someone to you, Leslie?
So there are lots of different systems and vendors out there. We have chosen a system, Meditech Expanse, and one of the things that we know about that, it may not be the same as Addenbrooke's Papworth is going to be using and as others, but in fact it has the ability to connect other systems. So GPs, it's a different system, but we've already started work on what is it we need to be sharing with each other so that the system that our GPs use and our system can talk to each other. And that's why I said earlier, hopefully that means you're not having to explain and tell people what's happened. Papworth's a really interesting one. Rebecca and I were on a call yesterday with Papworth. They're doing some work about their strategy. And they've actually reached out to us to say, we share patients, we have a direct referral pathway. How can we design some of this together? And so we'll make sure that our records can be shared with each other so that when we do transfer someone, they've got the most up-to-date information. So as Chris said, we are learning from the good, the bad, and those that we probably don't need to go and visit again. But in fact, we're going at a rapid pace, and we're making sure that we're using expertise that we haven't had, but most of all, we're making that system work for us and for our population so that we're able to connect with others in the system as well. And as I say, that was one of the reasons that this particular system was chosen.
Thank you, Leslie. We've got some questions, I think. Sarah, have we online? So I'll read it out. A few years ago, the Trust could not recruit. How is this now? Are you able to fill the posts? Well, I think, Mark, you probably touched on that, did you? About how working together as a group will potentially increase our attractiveness. But yes, at the QE, we have been successful in recruiting to typically what might be described as hard to recruit to posts. Recruitment has got a lot better. We've reduced significantly over the last 12 months agency doctors, locum doctors, agency nurses. And there's a good example of reducing enormous costs, many millions of pounds worth of fees that you pay to an agency, and recruiting permanent staff who are committed to the QE. And that is a demonstration that we've been able to recruit people. That's not to say there aren't challenges. There are still specific posts, specialist posts, that we find difficult to recruit, particularly as a sort of rural, small district general hospital. We're not that attractive to some specialist doctors. So we have to look differently at how those services are provided. But generally, the data shows with the reduction in locum and agency, we have been very successful this year in recruiting to post. But there are some, as I say, some areas that are both nationally and internationally challenging to recruit to. So that's recruitment. The second question here is, how are patients to be assessed, selected for Peddars Way, and what conversations take place with family and loved ones? We have an expert.
So all patients who are known to palliative, who want to come up to Peddars Way, if they've been referred to the palliative care team, the palliative care team will see them. They're quite strict criteria to be able to come up onto Peddars Way, and the patient, if they're able to, is encouraged to consent to that and to know what pathway they are on and what their care and treatment will be. And also, it's really important that the family or the patient are also involved in that conversation as well. And that can be done by the palliative care team or the parent team that the patient is under. And the assessments really are made by the palliative care team and our other clinical experts across the hospital.
Thank you very much. And there's one final question before we turn to the room online is, are you organising a care home forum to enable swift discharges home? Kerry, oh no, yes. Care home forum idea, basically.
Yes and no. Yes, we are very much like to push that forward. I know the ICG in Danny Edmonds I am organising, so I've already put one on board to be on that forum. So it's about building those relationships from the acute into the community to make sure the trust is there so we can discharge 7 days a week. So I have already put my name forward.
Brilliant. Good, thank you. Okay, back to the room. Are there any further questions? Anyone behind a pillar that I can't see? Chris?
I've just got one more. I'm sure everybody here would love to know how well you are working with the other arm of the NHS, which is GP practices. Try and ensure that less and less people come here as their first call instead of where they should be going to.
Yeah, a challenge everywhere in the NHS. Presentations to an emergency department that perhaps should have gone to primary care is a challenge. Every hospital I've worked in England and indeed abroad has the same problem. But I think we've recognised there's more work to be done with general practice in Norfolk. But I don't know whether, Rebecca, do you want to, who's our medical director, whether you want to say anything about relationships with general practice?
I guess one of the things that Carly and I have just been working on with our colleagues in primary care is resetting up a forum where our clinicians and our primary care colleagues come together. We are now more formally affiliating it to the West Norfolk Place, so it feels that it's got a better structure than the informal meetings that we were having previously. And we're going to take that forward, hopefully including our community and mental health providers. So we've got a forum where all of us clinicians can get together and look at some of the challenges that we jointly face, but also the opportunities that we have, and particularly with the 10-year plan driving us to really look at how we can deliver care differently. We're only going to be able to do that in collaboration and together. So that's our opportunity and forum. We do continue to have meetings as a trust with our primary care providers just to help smooth out the bumps that always occur at the connection between the hospital and the community. But I think a forum for me is going to be the thing that's really going to start to drive the clinical voice, describing and co-designing, and then of course with our patients and our communities, how we might change how we deliver care. So it's a work in progress, I think it's a fair thing to say.
William.
Sorry, William.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm William Burnshoff, non-exec director. Can I just build on that and call out some excellent work led by our director of nursing, who, responding to high infection rates in the hospital of deadly sepsis, has worked with the community and primary care, recognising the pivotal role that they play in prescribing in the community. And that has led to a dramatic fall in dangerous sepsis in the hospital and improved prescribing through those practices. It's an exemplar of really good work done between the acute and the community, building on the sort of things that Rebecca and Carly can put into action at a broader scale. Thank you.
Thank you. Truly save lives. Yeah. Thank you very much. Any other questions before? Sorry. Oh, yes.
It's me. Sorry, I don't need that. I can shout. Okay. Yes. Can we not forget Cambridgeshire? I live literally in the last field in Cambridgeshire. Not literally. Last field in Cambridgeshire before it's Norfolk. And I mean, obviously, you know, there's a lot of people. There is a small hospital there, but I don't know where that fits into all this at the moment. So, I finished my thing as a governor this year. So.
Well, I think we can, Leslie, guarantee we're not going to forget Cambridgeshire. It's far too big to forget.
It is. Well, yes. So far you go.
So I think, again, as the group develops, we recognise that, and particularly here at the QE, we serve populations that are wider than Norfolk. We've got Cambridgeshire and we've got Lincolnshire as well. So those are fundamental parts of our thinking. So we work certainly at Cambridgeshire. And thank you for raising it. But I'm looking at colleagues here and they're all nodding that even they're just not going to forget it.
Good. That's
guaranteed.
Thank you.
Oh. Yes, sir. Got the microphone.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Peter Wilkinson, the appointed governor from Brecon Council. I haven't really got a question, Chris, but I'd just like to say thank you to the governor's secretary, Sarah, and the comms team for getting all the information out to us and looking after us. Without them, we wouldn't really understand what's happening, what we need to do and everything else. And I know everybody who works in the health and care are wonderful people, they're special people. And I must congratulate the Peddars Way team. They've got to be so strong, take all the grief of families, not let it affect themselves. So it's just fantastic situation to, we find ourselves in. And the training for young people as well. It's local young training, so hopefully then we can keep them in our area rather than having to train somewhere else. We'd like to go back to the big lights in the city. And my work over the 20 years with youth advisory boards and the youth service before the youth advisory boards 15 years ago, I can reach out to them to bring us in with the young voice because they do lots of work already. The uppity mental health and well-being programme came from myself and the Brecon young commissions, as we call them. Every borough and district across from Kingsland and West Norfolk to Great Yarmouth have a youth advisory board, so we can reach out to them and bring that further in. I have got a question, Chris. Actually, I'll just pitch to Marcus now. Marcus, you said you've been in the NHS financial pit for all your career. Can I ask why you're not working for a global company with your feet up on the desk looking at you go?
That sounds very tempting. I think you've seen this afternoon. So I've worked alongside, I joined the graduate management training scheme a number of years ago, I won't tell you how many. And I think my career has been through a number of different NHS organisations, and what you're working alongside is to enable clinicians to do the right things in terms of being able to support them in their day-to-day. And some of what you see is, like you see this afternoon, absolutely phenomenal output that serves our population, and the NHS is loved by our population. And there's a quote from the beginning of the NHS will exist, and I can't remember the quote exactly, but the NHS will exist as long as the people support it. And whilst we've got a population that supports it, it will exist and grow and still be around. So that's the reason why.
Yeah, thank you. We need you.
And thank you for the thanks to all those people that supported today, because these things don't happen, do they, without an enormous amount of effort. So thank you, everyone, involved in that. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. You turned it off. Oh, I turned it off. Sorry. I've got it back on again now. Can I just, as a patient, former patient, wife of a former patient. Can I say a big thank you to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital? I'm an old nurse. I'm very old, but I trained, in dim and distant past, and I learned how to make patients comfortable in bed. A few years back now, we gained a new chief executive, was an old nurse and midwife, and she walked the hospital and found out what nurses felt. And that was the beginning of her recruitment campaign. Yeah. She did so well. She was followed by a similar person, and everybody listened. And I have been responsible for producing patient voice in the past, which I think was listened to. But every time I come into this hospital, I find a smile, helpfulness, and care. And that is prevalent throughout this whole hospital ethic now. The Macmillan unit, to me, is second to none. I have been a patient there for quite some time now. The expertise, medical, surgical, every bit of expertise is excellent. The way with patients is kind, caring, and expert, and relaxed. There's no terrible rush. Everything is done competently, nicely, kindly, and in a friendly manner. And when I go to see the consultant who looks after me now, he sits down and he says, I've got your scan. I haven't seen it, but we'll look at it together. And we do. And that tells me that that's a centre of excellence. And I do stand with the Leslie here about the School of Nursing. I went into it when it was started, as Leslie probably did. I was very, very impressed by the innovations that they brought in, and very, very pleased to find that you were given something resembling a patient, but it wasn't a patient, but it was something that you could relate to. And the chap in charge looked at me and he said, I can see that you're a nurse. And that was because I put my hand on the shoulder of the so-called patient in that manner. But if that School of Nursing is allowed to continue, I'll be very delighted, because it's worth its weight in gold.
Thank you very much indeed, and for those kind words. So you talk there about compassion, and compassion is so important. And I always say on sort of staff induction that no matter what fancy university you might have gone to, no matter how clever you are, that if you lack compassion, then you're in the wrong job and you might as well go home today, because it is compassion that is central to everything we do. And I think that was some lovely words. So thank you. I think on that basis, I think there's not better closing words than that. But is anyone going to, Mark, are you going to close the meeting, or what's the process?
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming.
Thank you everybody for your questions and your words. I really enjoyed this, and it's an eye-opener. But thank you for your time. I think with that we can say the annual members meeting is closed.